Well, I want to start by saying, ooh, ooh, hurrah! Let's go.
All right, let's do this. I'm joined by Mr. Preston Smiles. And Preston, in my world, you need no introduction. You're an inspiring man. And the intro to my show is Inspiring Conversations for the Modern Man.
Mm.
And for me, you're one of these guys who's always carrying a torch of positivity, of rising, looking inward so that you can be better, so that you can serve others. And I just want to start by saying thank you, man. Thank you for the work that you're doing in the world. I know you got a lot going on. You've created like an empire in your life, multiple businesses. You have a family, you have a wife and kids. And sometimes I wonder how you do it all.
Well, I want to start by saying, ooh, ooh, hurrah! Let's go. Yo, Ben, thank you. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for opening your heart. Thank you for leaning in. Thank you for the consistency that it takes to build what you have created and to be the type of man that other men and other people can lean up against. That's a big deal. And you don't know that until you cross that bridge, until you
Mm-hmm.
cross that threshold. There are certain conversations. Same thing with being a father, right? There's life before fatherhood and life after. And
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend sharing with me the other day. He was like, "Why'd you move to Austin? You had that that epic apartment in Venice Beach, the bungalow with the X, Y, and Z, and you were surfing every day and all the things." And I said, it was one thing. Uh, After my son was born, my lens changed. So the crack needles and the human
Mm-hmm.
feces in my
Yep.
in my alleyway for just 30-something-year-old me, I didn't care anything about that. But the moment I had to consider that it wasn't just about me anymore, or me and my wife, everything shifted. And so from one beautiful connected being to another, I receive and thank you.
Thank you, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a little bit behind you on the path, but I can certainly relate. Living down in Gastown in Vancouver, same
Mm.
thing. Crack pipes, needles, human feces on the street, and a young life. The young vibes down there. It's fine when you're in your
Yes.
20s, and living in the hustle and bustle of the city where everything's moving really fast, and enjoying that frequency. And now thinking about the next phase of my life, being drawn to the forest, which is where I
Yes.
am now. Being out with a little more spaciousness.
Yeah.
So yeah. So you've got. Where is your energy these days? You're
Mm-hmm.
a parent and you're a coach,
Mm-hmm.
and I know you started Empowered Brotherhood
Mm-hmm.
in Austin, which I've already sent some guys to. I have some coaching clients in Texas, and I say, dude, just drive in and go be with these guys, be in that energy. So, how do you direct your energy these days?
Yeah, man. Well, it's a little bit of what you just spoke about, because it takes courage to hear the call and to actually do something about it. It takes a certain type of man and a certain type of chutzpah and emotional fortitude to actually say yes to that which is handwritten on your soul. Right? We can all get excited about the ideas of things, but to follow through with that thing that has been haunting you takes another level. And what you spoke about with you moving to the forest is that thing, and that's one of the things I've been excited about and leaning into, and reminding myself and all of my clients that life doesn't come to you, it comes from you. And said differently, we can't have what we want, but we may experience what we have. And so for me, recognizing that there is no out there, that the name of the game is inside out. What am I bringing from the inside out. Where am I? What's needed? What's necessary for me to shapeshift into, such that people that I will never meet will receive the after effects, the butterfly effect of some of the ways in which I showed up. And so that's been really exciting for me. Yes, I got a lot going on. I would consider myself to be a serial entrepreneur at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And coaching is one of those things that really lights me up. I actually have two different companies. One that has created, in my opinion, and many others, the best coaches training in the world. And I'll expand on that. Just that statement alone, it's a bold statement.
Yeah.
But I've been in this work for 10 years as a person who supports other coaches, supports other people. I only started supporting coaches 2 years ago. The rest of the time, it was only my clients, myself. And the reason why I say it's potentially, right? I'm cool with it being debated, but there are not many coaching programs in the entire world that help you become a weapon, i.e., you can deal with and be with anything. And the best marketing, right? Because I have another company called Kaboom where I teach and help coaches make money.
Mm-hmm.
But those coaches, I tell them the same thing. Hey, be so good at what you do that it bleeds from you, right? That you're already closing clients just when you walk in a room. Be so magnetic and so on purpose and so in your mastery that there is no possible way that anybody who ever finds out about you can leave your vortex without inquiring at the very least. And so Elementum Coaching Institute, which I co-own with my wife, Alexi Panos, Christine Hasler, and Stefanos Sefendos. That container is so potent. It's literally the best thing I've ever put out, and I put out some heat. All my programs are amazing, bro.
Yeah.
But this is because they're basically three Virgos and me. I don't know how much you know about about that kind of stuff, but there's no stone left unturned, and all of us bring anywhere from 15 years to 10 at the very least worth of experience. And so all the coaching programs in the world often just deal with one or two things, right? So, we'll do NLP. And so
Yep.
we'll just deal with the mind, and we'll forget that there's a body connected that has its own wisdom. Or we'll do, body stuff, but we'll pretend like sex doesn't exist. Or we'll do this thing, but we'll leave out trauma and shame, which is the biggest thing walking and talking. There is nothing more potent and more worthy of a conversation than trauma and shame. And those things, right? Even if and not poo-pooing on all these different programs, because I've taken them. I've spent $10,000 doing an ICF certification. I've spent a whole bunch more on at least 7 other certifications, which you will never find on my website because I don't give a shit. It's not about the certification. The point is to be a weapon. The point is to be able to meet my clients wherever they are and to be able to serve them fully, right? So that's what's got me excited, man. We got a new class coming up, and that's starting in March. We only do one a year.
So you want to train coaches so that you could, obviously there's a bottleneck when you're a coach and you have single clients.
Yes.
And even, when you move into the realm, like where I am now, where I'm working with groups, you can only run so many groups, right? So you're trying to train leaders so you can have the highest possible impact you
Correct.
can on the world.
Correct. Because most coaches suck, right? As somebody who's just spent, I'm in that world all day, every day. I'm around them. I see where they stop. right? I see that they read 12 books and they did 2 NLP courses and this, that, and the other, and they got their nutritional thing and X, Y, and Z, and they read Iron John, and they think that they're ready, but they haven't been in the trenches. And so when they get hit with certain things, they cannot meet that client. And whether the client knows it or not, there's a thing that happens when you know somebody doesn't have you and can't catch you,
Mm-hmm.
right? The nervous system goes, I can't trust this,
Yep.
right? And so they start to pull back just a little bit more. And all of a sudden, this opportunity to really help somebody heal some of the parts that have been plaguing them for years, that opportunity goes away because the coach isn't actually equipped to show up for that person.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think you defined how they suck.
Mm-hmm.
How do you equip them? How do you equip them? And the other question I was going to ask is around this like magnetism piece.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you train that into a person? Is that a skill that a person can develop, or is it? I think people look at you and they're like, this guy just was built with the personality that is meant for this, and he's lucky. So
Mm-hmm.
like, can you learn this stuff, or is it just inherent?
100%, bro. 100%. You can learn it, and it's always been there. So I'll sort of caveat this whole thing by saying there's a part of each and every human. This is my belief, uh, that has never been hurt, harmed, or endangered. There's a part of every human right now that exists on this planet, no matter how much trauma, no matter how many things they've been through, that has never been hurt, harmed, or endangered. There's a part of every human that is still innocent, that is still pure, that is still connected to the source.
Mhm.
The challenging thing is those humans, most of us, self included, were programmed and conditioned at a very early age. Now I'm going to break this down. There are 4 aspects of what it means to be human. We are biological beings. That's number 1. Number 2, we are linguistic beings, which means we build worlds with our language. Without the linguistics of door and doorknob, you trying to get out of that room, which is also language, would be very challenging. But the moment we have language for door and doorknob, opportunities open up. So number 2, we are linguistic beings. Number 3, and this is the one I want to hit on, we are social and historical beings, born into beliefs and interpretations. Those beliefs and interpretations, because we are egocentric when we come out of the womb, right? We're born into community, but we're egocentric, which means everything that occurs, we blame on ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
The entirety of our environment is informing our nervous system and our mental maps of the world. And so if we're born into a belief and an interpretation unconsciously that says Rambo, Terminator, anything, men are. Men look like this. They don't cry. They always have the right answer. They figure it out. And if they don't, they are weak. If we're born into an interpretation that says money is the root of all evil, if we're born into an interpretation or a belief that says that you are to work hard, pay your taxes, and stay out of the way. All of these little micro things and big things play a part in why somebody may be really far away from that aspect of themselves. So I
Mm-hmm.
tell my clients all the time, I'm not special, just like you aren't. You're not special in your problems. You're not special in your gifts. I'm unique, right? Definitely
Mm-hmm.
unique, but I'm not special,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the 4th is we are quantum beings. So that's a whole nother realm, but that's the 4, right?
It's like
Now,
the spiritual realm, essentially, is
correct,
what you're speaking to.
correct.
Yes.
Yes, which science backs up now, because when they break us down and break us down and break us down, they find no thing. And so the question is what are we, right? If you take a magnifying glass and we keep looking and there's nothing there, when we get down to the very last atoms and all that stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
there's something beyond.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, essentially what you're saying is that there's a part of everyone that is magnetic, that is fully expressed, that
Mm-hmm.
is going to impact people in one way or another, the way that you impact them
Correct.
when you're coaching,
Yep.
and that what's in the way, you're removing things that are in the way. You're not
Correct.
like adding things to the person. You're removing their barriers.
Correct.
You're helping them deal with their trauma, their
Yes.
social conditioning.
That. Yes.
Uh-huh.
So, and while we're doing that, we're also teaching them how to do it for others and having them practice more than they've ever practiced in their entire lives. This is one of the big keys to our success is extraordinary accountability. We had 87 students go through the last one last year, and I think only 60 people got a certificate from us.
Wow.
So they paid all that money and they learned a lot. Everybody who left was like amazing coach, but the way that we hold the bar, this is the Harvard, the Yale, the Esselins of coaching. We've put the bar so high that for you to get our stamp, that means you really showed up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that high level accountability creates a container where, you know, like I know, if you practice something over and over again for 9 months, day in, day out, you're going to walk away being
Ah,
pretty damn locked in with that
yeah.
thing. And so you take 9 months to set yourself up for 9 years. And that's the thinking.
So you create this high level of accountability where not everyone passes. And uh, to me, that's like a refreshing and beautiful concept these days, because
Mm,
like a lot of master's programs, for instance, like it, you it's pretty easy to pass. There's so many things at the university level, like just having been in there, I'm like, wow, you could really squeak through and get like a
mhm,
master's degree and not really know much,
mhm.
or know a lot at the intellectual level,
Correct.
but not know much in terms of a lived experience.
Yes.
I did a degree in addictions counseling, and it was 4 years.
Mm,
And I remember when I was graduating, I looked around at this, these were my judgments, but I looked around at my graduating class and I was like, 98% of these people are not ready to work with addicted people.
no.
Like it's a very difficult population to work with. And there's just not enough lived experience and embodiment of the work that we were doing there to be able to handle these types of environments.
Correct. Correct.
So you can really squeeze through. And so I like what you said. It was about how a person shows up
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
is how they get through. So they're going to learn the skills, they're going to learn the material, but did you show up fully? Did you pass this sort of rigorous accountability
Correct.
that we created for you?
Correct. Yeah. There's
Beautiful.
there's so many layers and levels to it, and it's so most of the students report back the same thing, which was whether I got the certificate or not. That was the most intense, beautiful, high level transformation I've ever had for myself. Right? Because you can't anything you're going to teach to somebody else, you got to go through it yourself. Right? And
Mm-hmm.
and most people skip over a lot. They skip over a lot. They think that they're one or two little pieces or parts, uh, you know, is enough. But you don't know until you get in the water with sharks that you
Mm-hmm.
you are actually ready. And so putting them in a position where they get to be around, master coaches like myself and Steph and Christine and Alexi, and then also work with each other and watch us. So we have immersion calls. We have 2 different calls a week with us in the big group. So we teach, let's call it on Tuesdays, and we have immersion calls on Thursdays. And so immersion calls is where, let's say you and I were we taught on Tuesday, and then you and I would bring up 3 people, and those 3 people would coach each other. There'd be somebody who observes, somebody who's being coached, and
The
the
coach.
yeah, there we go,
Yeah.
coachee
Mm-hmm.
coach, and so then they go through that process, and then as soon as the timer's over, 10 minutes, you and I pop back on the screen, and we give them live feedback, and everybody's learning like in the room, like holy shit, I never thought about that. And then at some point we do it, we go into the smaller groups and
Mm-hmm.
coach them and watch them, and as I'm coaching them, right, I'll get somebody on the other side, and then I'll say, okay, now for the 12 of you, 13, 20 of you in this room, what did I just do? Right, because we've taught you parts work internal family systems. We've taught you conflict management. We've taught you NVC. We've taught you all these different things, right? Trauma release techniques.
Mm-hmm.
What did I just do? In what order? Right? And they have to figure it out. And I say, well, why did I go there instead of there? And they have to, like, it's like a puzzle. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful and interesting.
Rigorous, man. I love that. It gets me excited. And, there's a part of me that wants to take trainings until the day I die,
Yeah,
just to keep learning.
same,
Right.
bro. I get so much from
Mm-hmm.
watching Christine and Steph and Alexi, right? I show up at their classes and I'm like, what? They're
Mm-hmm.
so different than me, right? Like my soul signature is obviously a little more aggressive, a little bigger, right? But the way they enter the conversation is different, right? And look
Yeah.
what it does to the nervous system.
But
Magic.
yeah, this boots on the ground approach is the way to learn. Just going back to my degree again, it's like I spent 3 years in classes and I spent 2 years in these practicums where you
Mm-hmm.
go and you go work somewhere as an assistant. You sit in the circles,
Mm-hmm.
and I said to a few people, I learned more in those practicums than I did in the other 3 years,
For
right?
sure.
And the Samurai Brotherhood, the brotherhood we've got up here in Canada and online, we don't have a leadership training.
Mm-hmm.
We train leaders in the squads. That's how our captains come about. They
Yep.
come about via spending years in squad and learning how
Yes.
we do things, and they rise, and they come to our retreats. We're going to create a captain's training because we want to expand, but yeah, there is the lived experience is the most important piece. So what what's the secret to working with your wife? I think a lot of guys probably wonder that. A lot of guys
Mm-hmm.
would not dare go
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and
You
they're
know,
not sure why. But
yeah.
maybe each guy has his own reasons. But how?
It's it's a tricky thing, man. We we started working together in 2014, and it was extremely successful, right? That masculine feminine dynamic of each of us
Mm-hmm.
diving into each aspects of ourselves, amazing. And yes, a lot came up. Jealousy stuff, uh, everything you can imagine came up. And I'll tell you this, it's actually easier at some level to work with my wife than it is to just be a husband in a husband wife relationship, because we're pointed at something when we're working together, right? So now
Mm-hmm.
we both have this common goal, which is to serve these people in our workshop, serve these people who paid for us to be there and show up for them. So there's this aspect where it's easier for us to point at that than it is for us to just sit in a room and like deal with the stuff that comes up around,
Uh-huh.
not really showing up for each other. I will tell you this: I'm going through a season right now where I'm mourning and being with a lot of grief about who I wasn't for her, and how I didn't show up in our marriage, and how I didn't show up as the leader I know I am and can be for so many other people. Um, and that's been that this season of mourning, and also who she wasn't for me, right? I guess what I'm saying is the deeper I go, the more I recognize what her nervous system needs and what mine needs. And uh, I can look back, we've been together, we're almost 9 years now, um, and married 5.
Mm-hmm.
And marriage is the hardest thing I've ever had to do, ever, right? Ever had the privilege of stepping into.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like we're going through a energetic divorce and restarting a relationship, not with a clean palette, not with, but with some paint on there that we choose. And so a part of that new canvas is me owning that the wounded little boy in me was too afraid to rock the boat. So
Mm-hmm.
I allowed her to lead our relationship
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously for way too long. And it more than likely created a lot of resentment in her and mistrust. And it for sure created a lot in me because
For
I kept
sure.
kept trying to get it right and do it
Hmm.
right and be the perfect husband and the perfect everything. And the harder I tried, the more the target moved, and it just didn't land. So,
Hmm. And yeah, and as you chase that, you're self-abandoning,
hmm
right?
hmm
Yeah. Uh, Deep share. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that here, man. Thank you. What what brought in this season? I'm curious. What corner do you feel like you turned that made you aware of this and brought this in?
yeah, man. Like I said, children change a lot.
Uh,
And just one kid is challenging. I have four, uh, and they're all brand new, right? So
yeah.
it's pure chaos, man. My oldest is four, and then the twins are two today. Today is their birthday. They turned two today. And then I have a 5 month old little boy named Cassius.
Man, you guys went for it.
Uh
You really did.
huh. So every kid that comes in, it levels you up, right? Every kid, every single kid that comes in, it like calls each parent to a bigger game. And Cassius, our last child, just brought up all of the little places where this is where it started. This may blow you away, and it may be helpful for some of the men listening now. A woman who chooses to, bring a child into this world has a huge sacrifice when it comes to her body and her identity. And oftentimes, while that's happening, especially if there's other children, there's something called being touched out, right? So
Hmm.
if all
Yes.
the kids are just, give me your titty, give me a hug, give me this
Hmm.
snot, spit, poop all over you, right?
Yeah.
She's having that experience all day. And then here's this moment where this man who helped you create that comes in. The last thing women want at during some of these times, especially if their vaginas or their vulvas were just ripped during the birth process, the last thing they want is to go into sexual experiences and things of this nature.
Yeah.
Um, and so
So there's a space there for sure, right?
that
That can
all
that happens. Yep.
big time, right? So here we are, right, just starting to get back to normal, and we found out we were pregnant again.
Oh.
Yeah, and this was just like exciting and also like, oh man, here we go again, right?
Yeah.
And so what it brought up in me, which has been a huge thing, is recognizing how since I was 13 years old, I've been trying to prove that I'm not my dad. Since I was 13, I've been literally holding. People praise me all the time. They're like, "You have a bulletproof mindset." How the hell did that happen? It doesn't matter. I've seen bloody deaths. I've been through everything you can imagine. Everything, bro. Like so many things, including addiction and things of that nature. And that's how my dad died, actually. Right. So much trauma that by the time I was 13, I was like, cool, there's no space for my needs.
Mm-hmm.
The 13, I literally became a man. I'm doing quotes here at 13.
Uh-huh.
No space for my needs. Right. I will
Mm-hmm.
take care of everybody. I will have no issues. You will not
Yeah.
have to worry about me. So fast forward 13 now to this 40-year-old man, um, and I recognized that I did have needs and desires,
Mm-hmm.
and that I had just been stuffing them down for years and years and years, trying to be a hero. So I was in the drama triangle without knowing it. And
Yep.
if you know anything about the drama triangle, there's a hero. If there's a hero, there has to be a victim and there has to be a villain. And so I started to recognize who I had cast in each of these roles. Um, and the impetus, the big piece of it was that I didn't leave any space for anything other than I will put the whole house on my back if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
If and you can only do that for so long before things start to uh, yeah show up. And so
Yeah. how do you undo such a thing when you've built a life
Hmm.
around that pattern, when you have 4 children and you're talking about a fifth one coming,
No,
right?
no, no. This is that.
So
That
this was
was
the story of 3 and here comes number 4.
4 exactly.
Yeah. how do you how do you there's a lot of ways to ask this question. How do you get those needs met? How do you feed those needs as a
Hmm.
man who's 40 with 4 kids, a wife,
Hmm.
multiple businesses?
Yep.
How do you untie all of those threads?
It's a journey, man. I'm in it right now.
Mhm.
I'd say the first step for any man at any level is acknowledgement. Right? I had been in denial, and my ego was so good and tricky, and I got so much praise. Right? I At 33, I was living with my mom. I'm 41 right now, and in the last 2 months, I've made $2 million. Right? That's a big jump, bro.
Yeah.
I literally, literally,
Yeah.
I made $40,000 according to the IRS in 2013,
Hmm.
um, and so I've been praised for that. Like, okay, something clicked in that dude, and he just went ape shit, and he hasn't stopped. So the very thing that everybody was praising me for was also underneath it was a shadow of there's no space for me to fall apart. Right?
Uh-huh.
Everybody's counting on me. So just the acknowledgement of like, I require falling apart. Now you want to know what I did? 2 years ago, I created a secret mastermind. To this day, it's still quote unquote a secret. You could never find it anywhere online. But the guys in it, some of the guys. John Wineland's in it.
Hmm.
Adrian Grenier's in it.
Yeah.
Josh Warner, like all these, Brian Reeves, Stephanos is in it. I have a secret mastermind, and I created it. And the rules, like Fight Club, is there's no leader. All of us hold space for everybody, right? Nobody gets to be the boss in this mastermind, right? The point of this thing is for us to hold each other. We're all playing big games, and we need each other. So I
Hmm.
created a container where I could fall apart. I created a space where I could express those needs and have men who are trained to be able to hold that and call me forward and call me out and put their arm around me and say, I got you, bro.
Hmm.
And so, where my dad didn't have the consciousness to do so, I created a army of men who could hold what he couldn't. And so, I've been in the process of healing the little boy in me through this group.
Uh-huh. This is men's work. This is what men's work is about. Sometimes people ask me what men's work is, and I have various answers. But one of
Yes,
my answers is it's men giving each other what they didn't get from their fathers,
correct.
or what they always needed from their fathers.
Hmm.
And there's always something, because the world's imperfect and our needs are great. Our needs outweigh the capacity of any one person,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And I have the same thing. I have a private mastermind where it's what you have to do. And I really pictured this. You know, there's a saying, it's lonely at the top.
Hmm.
You know, you work your way up to a certain point and you achieve a level of mastery in your particular field, and you pop up into that next level, and then you
Hmm.
look around, and I don't think it's as simple as like, oh, there's nobody over here, or there's less people up here. There's like, oh, it's not what I thought it would be,
Hmm.
or oh, I made all the money that I could want, and I still have problems. You know, I'm still limited by time. I still have the same amount of time as the rest of you.
Yep.
You know, I still resent my wife or
Hmm.
don't show up in a way that I want to show up. I still have all of these same problems.
Hmm.
And yeah, oh, what did I have to give away or sell
Hmm.
or neglect or deny to
Hmm.
get here?
Real talk. Real talk.
Yeah.
Oof. Oof. Church. That
Man,
all of that. is facts, man. There's so much juice in that. I do want to put a caveat here. I said in the last 2 months I made 2 million. It was actually over the last, let's call it 5.5, 6 months, and it that's over quite a few businesses. But
Right.
I wanted to be specific when anybody's hearing what I'm speaking to, and I hope whoever does hear that remembers to celebrate, to 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 get in the consciousness of abundance and to celebrate, because in my from where I sit, where I stand, people like you, Ben, and people like the listeners who choose, because birds of a feather always flock together. Anybody listening to this right now is somebody that could take you and I by the arm and say, I got you, at some
Mm-hmm.
level, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I believe that it's extremely important for people like us to be living in the most abundance. And I don't just mean financially, but the most abundance that we can muster up at any point, at any time. And one of the, I guess, analogies, or would this be a metaphor that I use with my clients often, is the, um, the blood does not belong to the blood vessel. The blood is meant to flow. And if it does not, and it stagnates at any level, or if the vessel tries to keep the blood, it could cause immense damage. And it's the same thing for the trees and the fruits. The tree doesn't own the fruit. The fruit belongs to the ecosystem. The fruit must be dropped, it must be let go. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've tapped into, and we teach this in Elementum as well, I've tapped into the inner laws of success. There are outer laws, anybody could study those and figure those out, but the inner laws of success, the inner laws of abundance is a whole nother beast and a whole nother game. And uh, it's important from where I sit that we who have ears to hear and eyes to see, who get that there is a revolution on its way. And it
Mm-hmm.
starts from the inside. It's an involution, then an evolution, which will create the revolution. Now what that is what we started with in the beginning, which is spirit, Buddha, Krishna, God, Jesus, Allah, source, divine intelligence can only do for you what it can do through you. Said differently, life isn't happening to us, it's coming from us. We
Mm-hmm.
create the space, we create the container, and abundance abounds because it's always been here. That's the thing. It's always been here. It's about aligning with it and being receptive to
Mm-hmm.
that which is always occurring.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my responsibility as an individual, as a coach, is to break through my blocks and open up my channels,
Hmm.
expand my vessel
Correct.
so that more abundance can flow in, and so more can flow out. Um, I definitely had to do my work with this. I became a trained counselor. I started working in a rehab center, and all the salaries for counselors around here, it's like $50,000-$60,000 a year. And I was like, do I want to be stuck at this level in my life? And there was a part of me that didn't feel like I was worth more than that.
Hmm.
And eh, even as I continued to expand my capacity to help people and to impact people,
Hmm.
and it took me running into friends like Jordan Gray and like my wife, who could reframe it for me like you do, which is like, you have a responsibility to remove these blocks so that you can impact more people,
Correct.
because money is energy. And do you want more energy flowing through
Hmm.
your life and through your business,
Hmm.
or do you want less? Do you want to
Correct.
keep a little tight cap on it? Because I heard you say you want to impact as many people as possible.
Correct. Correct.
And so grinding that in and taking those steps forward,
Hmm.
uh, and sort of stepping into a new level, and then raising my chin up
Mm.
and going like, yeah, okay, I deserve to be here,
Yes.
has been the way. And now I know that this will grow if I just keep doing the same thing. But now I make 10 times what I made per hour 6-7 years ago. You know,
Yes. Yes.
and I can make in a day, in an hour, what I used to make in a day.
Yep.
And back then it was like a far off goal, and I didn't think it was even possible. But what it took was changing the mindset. Yeah, like
Yeah.
my skills have changed a bit. I've grown,
Hmm.
but I agree with you. The biggest thing that I've changed is the way that I see myself. I've removed that limiter, that
Yes.
that yeah, that speed limit, or so to
Mm.
speak,
Mm.
from my
So good.
insides.
So
Yeah.
good. The only other piece I would add to that is it's become an of course in your body, right?
Hmm.
So, for instance, and if all of you picture this wherever you are, if you walked into your house tonight, and it was pitch black, would you know where the light switch is? Now, for most of you, the answer would be yes. And the reason for that is because you had done it so many times that it's
Hmm.
no longer even a part of the mind. It is at some level autopilot. It's in, of course, in your body. It lives there. You don't have to think about it. The neural pathway is created and now it lives in the body. Of course. Of course, a million a year. Of course, 10 million. Of course,
Hmm.
30. I don't know, right? This depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
The point is not the money. The money is a tool to set up the lifestyle and the impact that one would like to have. Right? Not everybody needs to be multimillionaires. It just depends on what you desire in this lifetime. And I just challenge people and especially coaches to go too far and then find their way back. Because oftentimes they never even get close to what
Mm-hmm.
too far is. Right? Too far
Yeah.
is was your dad's, his dad's, and his dad's. Too far is your mom's, her mom, and her mom. That's their level of consciousness. The point of them passing the baton to you is not to run the same race, but to evolve the family name by being brave enough to move outside of that which is comfortable. Right?
Mm.
That's our work. Right? I swear to God, bro, I could go do 10 other things, but I work with coaches and men, but especially coaches because I see what's possible. Right? I see what's possible. It's happening through me. As
Yeah.
sexy and as amazing, as powerful as I am, there are millions of people that I will never see or talk to or touch. But if I train enough coaches, if I help enough people help themselves, they can get to those people. And we can live in somewhat of the most civil, beautiful, abundant society we've ever seen, right?
Hmm.
As Canada goes through what it's going through.
Oh yeah, Canada. Yeah, man. I love that. I I feel like we can't have enough coaches because what it requires to be a good coach, it it requires that you do your own work on
Real talk.
yourself.
Yeah.
And when I see what coaching is at its essence, I realize that everybody needs a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Some could argue that everybody needs a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
We've got lots of therapists. The barrier to entry for therapy is very high.
Correct.
It's unnecessarily high, in my opinion, just having been through
Mm-hmm.
some schooling. But yeah, we need as many coaches as we can get on this
Yes.
planet.
1000%. Let me speak to that just really quickly.
Mhm.
I I have two therapists right now. And last year I had, I think, five coaches. And I dance in between all of those. Almost every therapist that I know or who I'm working with and coaching is attempting to switch their business to coaching because they can still use some of the things that they got from their traditional therapy path, but then they can expand that and be an actual weapon, right? Where they can meet people where they actually are and use different techniques based on what the person needs and not your limiting schooling or the
Yeah.
fucking 20 people on some school board that said these are the 5 books that you read in order to be good at this subject, right?
Yeah.
We are whole soul beings. There's so much to
Yeah.
us.
And here are all the rules of the things that you're not allowed to say,
That
right? You have to ask questions, and that's it, right? Yeah, I know somebody who really needs to hear this right now. She's a therapist,
mm,
and she's so frustrated by her limitations.
yep.
She's in Alberta, and she said she's not allowed to advertise her therapy. She's not
I
allowed
hate
to
that,
say like, here's what my clients are saying about what it's like to work with me.
bro.
That's illegal
Yep.
according to her board.
Yep. It's
It,
ridiculous. They
it's
can,
ridiculous.
you can advertise McDonald's. You can advertise, there could be billboards of strip clubs. Pornhub can advertise on her website, but she
Yeah.
can't advertise it. Bro, I could go off for days on this stuff.
Yeah.
But I know we're working with some limited time, so I just want to say this for any person listening to this that has any inclination of wanting to level up your skills, wanting to take your life and the lives of the people around you, including your family, right? You'll never be the same after you enter certain doors. And not saying we're the only, but I know, like deeply in my soul, in my body, because it's not just me. It's not just my training. This has been well crafted. This is exactly what so many people have been calling in. It's all of the things put in one space and rigorous. So if that is you and you want to step in, number one, let me tell you this. We already are 20 under, doubling last year. So we're going to close this up. I think we're going to take 30 more students, and then that's it. And so that's the whole year. So if you're hearing this right now, you essentially can either get ready for the following year or the following year after that, or you move fast. It's elementumcoachinginstitute.com, elementumcoachinginstitute.com. And if you say that you heard this podcast, we're going to give you $2,500 off.
Boom.
Real talk.
Huge.
Yeah.
We'll get this episode out as fast as we can.
Dope.
Okay. We've got a few minutes left. I've got 2 questions I want to ask.
Let's go.
Where do you point men when they want help with their romantic relationships?
That's a tricky one, man.
It is tricky, right? It's not like there's like a whole abundance of things out there for guys to look.
A couple books, but mainly 2 other men. So I think it's important that men actually have feedback and hear from other men, and are in groups and in spaces where men can ask the right questions and just let them vent. Bro, I can't tell you how many times I've been so triggered by something that occurred in my house, and I went to my group and I was like, I want to drop kick every kid. I want to jump through a window. And after I say all that, they're like, how you feel now? And I'm like, well, I think I'm pretty clear, right? Like, I think I'm good to go, right?
Yeah.
So get into groups like yours, and be held. The number one answer I have for anybody who wants to level up, and people ask me all the time, they're like, how did you go from living with your mom to being in the position you are now? And I have one answer, and that is the seed contains the blueprint for the entire tree. The distinction between a tree that grows 1,000 feet in the air and provides food and shade and supports the ecosystem, and a tree that grows 3 feet in the air and shrivels up and dies is not the actual seed, but the soil that it's planted in. The soil is the community. The soil is who you're planted in. Where are you living? And what is that doing? Right? So for me, the name of the game, people say proximity is power. It actually is. And it's not just power like false power, like power over, but it's power with and power within. Right? So that's answer number 1.
Join a men's group.
Correct.
Second one, social media. How's it been? So first of all, I really enjoy your Instagram feed. It's 90% funny, 10% inspiring.
Correct.
At least that's how it feels.
Yep.
And I enjoy the memes that you post. How do you manage it? Like, I posted 2 stories the other day about something that can be seen as political, and the fucking backlash I got, the fists that were thrown, made me just want to get off social media altogether.
Yep.
Right? How do you manage all of that while managing your businesses? This is
Yes,
really a personal question.
for sure. It is a thing, man. It is a thing. Number one, I check in with my intention before I post anything. Right? What's the intention of this? Is it to lighten the mood? Is it to shake shit up and make people mad? Is it to educate? Is it to inspire? What am I doing here? And whatever that
Mhm.
intention is, I let go of the attachment to the outcome that I want for that thing. So the name of the game is to listen and give, right? The blood doesn't belong to the blood vessel. The fruit doesn't belong to the tree. So
Mhm.
as long as I'm giving the gift, I've done my part. How people react and respond to that, yes, is important at some level and also not, because I know that some of the greatest direction that I've come through has come from rejection, and so sometimes you need to rattle people's cage and walk away. And yes, they're going to be upset with you.
Mhm.
You know, keep in mind, I've been doing social media consistently for 10 years, right?
Uh-huh.
Like consistently. And so I've learned how to have thicker skin, and sometimes I smack people back, right?
So you read comments and answer messages from time to time?
Yep, I do. And I get haters. People come for me, bro. I've had people call my phone and my wife's phone. I've had
Uh-huh.
people send death threats. I've had
Mhm.
weird, like, cult spiritual groups try to, like, you know, I don't know what they were trying to
Yeah.
do, but it gets nasty, it gets ugly, it gets weird. I don't plan on being on social media for long. However, my job is to serve the people, so I'll go wherever the people are and give the gift.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man. Thank you for giving the gift. There's been a number of longer videos where you talk about some controversial shit
Mm-hmm.
and you bring your opinions and you bring a teaching to that. You know, the
Yep.
Joe Rogan or all the stuff that was happening with the riots last year.
Yep.
You were one of these guys that I leaned on. It's like when things get to a boiling point, when things really boil up, you show up.
Every time.
So I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you.
Like that you are a true leader in that way. You don't There's a part of me that when things get hairy, I'm like, it's gonna take so much of my mental energy to engage this shit on social media. I just can't do it. Cause
Yes.
like I
Yes.
got my emails, I got the dog needs food,
Yep.
I got this business over here. And
Yep.
so I really appreciate that you flip it on,
Mm-hmm.
you show up, you bring it,
Yep.
and you let the heat come, and you stand in the fire.
Real talk. Thank you for that. That's a
Yeah,
big compliment, because that's not something everybody catches, right? Like when it really gets hard, that's
you're there.
in person
Yep.
or on social media. I will
Mhm.
fucking stand deeply in the fire with anybody, whoever's like, and try to be as not neutral, but just give context and teach, right? Because
Mhm.
that's our job, right? If I really want to be the dude who drives the Porsche and X, Y, and Z, I got to be willing when the shit gets hot to also be the leader in that way,
Uh-huh.
right? And so,
Mhm.
to me, that's our job, especially when uh, people are looking for something to believe in and to understand. And so I can step back and let all the talking heads and the people who want to create as much division as possible speak, or I can throw my 2 cents in there and possibly open it up and help people see and recognize that everything we've ever talked about is nuanced. There's almost no black and white these days.
Mhm.
There's so much gray, and there's so much nuance to it. And given that I chose to come onto this planet as Afro amazing with this dark skin, I have an insight into certain things that most wouldn't, while also simultaneously being tapped in to spirit in such a way that knows that I am all that is. Right?
Mhm.
It's a really tricky dance.
Man, Preston, we're out of time. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful conversation, man. I'd love to have another one sometime. Where are the best places for people to follow you? You know, for me, a few years ago, someone mentioned you and was like, Preston Smiles. I was like, no, I don't know him. And then they said, well, you should. And I looked you up. I was like, oh my God, this guy's a force. He's created like so much. So, if people want to see your next level of development over
Mhm.
the next 10 years, where do we follow you?
I'd
for
say
now?
now, for now, Instagram, but I'm putting a lot more heat into YouTube. So
Hmm.
my YouTube is going to be the thing that I put heat on lately. Instagram, I make it's my dirty sense of humor and also inspiration and motivation and all of the
Yeah.
other things. Um, but those two places, and I'll say again, elementumcoachinginstitute.com. Anybody who really wants to work with me, who really wants to go deep, you want to transform your life and spend 9 months to set yourself up for 9 years, that's the place.
All right. We'll put the links in the show notes. Thanks again, Preston. All the best to you, brother.
So much love.